Right now, somewhere in America, there's a senior citizen sitting at their kitchen table holding a letter from their state SNAP office, reading the same paragraph for the third time, trying to understand what they're supposed to do next, and feeling that familiar knot of anxiety in their chest, wondering if one wrong move could mean losing the food assistance that helps them eat every single month. If that's ever been you, or if you've avoided applying for SNAP altogether because you assumed your Social Security check was just a few dollars too high to qualify, what I'm about to share with you could change everything, because in 2026, the way elderly households are evaluated for SNAP benefits has shifted in ways that most seniors don't even know about yet. And thousands of older Americans who think they don't qualify actually do once the right deductions are applied. I want you to know that you're in the right place, because this is U.S. Benefit Updates, and every single week we break down the government programs that matter most to seniors and low-income families across the United States in plain language, without the confusion, without the pressure, and without making you feel like you need a law degree just to understand what you're entitled to. We're here to give you the truth, the facts, and the clarity you deserve. And today, we're walking through the 2026 SNAP rule changes for elderly households step by step, because understanding how this program really works could mean the difference between skipping meals and having enough food to last the month. Let me tell you something that might surprise you, and I mean really surprise you. Most seniors believe that if their Social Security income is above a certain dollar amount, they're automatically disqualified from food assistance, and if it's below that amount, they're in. It makes sense to think that way because Social Security is usually the main source of income for retirees, and it feels logical that the government would just compare that number to a cutoff and make a decision. But here's the truth that changes everything, and this is coming straight from the USDA Food and Nutrition Services official guidelines. SNAP eligibility for elderly households, which means any household with someone age 60 or older, doesn't work on a simple income cutoff. It works on something called a net income test, and that test allows for specific deductions that bring down your countable income before the government even looks at whether you qualify. Those deductions include a standard deduction that every household gets, a medical expense deduction for out-of-pocket costs over $35 a month, and an excess shelter deduction for housing costs that eat up more than half your income after other deductions. Once these are applied, many seniors whose income looks too high on paper actually fall well below the eligibility threshold and qualify for real, meaningful assistance. Now, I know that sounds complicated, so let me walk you through a real example that'll make this crystal clear. Imagine someone we'll call Walter. He's 78 years old, lives alone in Montgomery, Alabama, and spent decades teaching vocational education at a local high school before he retired at 66. Today, Walter receives a Social Security retirement benefit of $1,380 a month, pays $820 in rent every month, and spends about $140 out of pocket on prescription medications after Medicare covers what it can. For years, Walter believed he didn't qualify for SNAP because his Social Security income seemed too high based on numbers he'd seen online, so he never even tried to apply. But here's what was actually happening behind the scenes. The gross income limit for a single-person household at 130% of the federal poverty level in 2026 is $1,630 per month. Walter's income of $1,380 is already below that, so he passes the first test. But even if his income had been slightly higher, he would still qualify under the elderly household net income test because once his available deductions are factored in, his countable income drops dramatically. Here's how it breaks down. First, there's a standard deduction of $204 for a single-person household, which is applied automatically. Then there's the medical expense deduction. Walter spends $140 a month on prescriptions, and anything over $35 counts as a deduction. So that's $105 deducted right there. Then comes the excess shelter deduction. Walter pays $820 in rent, and because that's more than half of his income after the other deductions are applied, the excess amount gets deducted too. When you run the math, Walter's net countable income for SNAP purposes comes out to around $671 a month, which is well below the 100% poverty level threshold of $1,255 for a single-person household in 2026. Walter qualifies for SNAP, and he would receive a monthly benefit based on that net income figure. This isn't some rare exception. This is how the system is designed to work for elderly households, and thousands of seniors who assume they earn too much would actually qualify if they understood how the deductions work. Now let's talk about why this matters so much right now in 2026, because the rules haven't just stayed the same, they've been updated, and those updates have created confusion, especially around recertification. If you're already receiving SNAP, you know that every so often you get a letter in the mail asking you to recertify your eligibility. That means proving that your income and resources still meet the program's requirements. For elderly and disabled households, certification periods are usually longer than for younger households, often 12 to 24 months depending on your state, because the government recognizes that income from Social Security tends to be stable. But what's changed in 2026 are the reporting requirements during that certification period, and this is where seniors are getting tripped up. Under the elderly simplified reporting rules, if you're already receiving SNAP and your income is stable, you generally don't have to report every little change during your certification period. What you are required to report are changes that would make you ineligible, like if your countable assets go above the resource limit, which for elderly households in 2026 is $4,500. That resource limit includes things like bank account balances and certain investments, but it does not include your home, one vehicle, or certain retirement accounts. The limit is higher for elderly households than for younger ones, specifically because the government understands that older Americans may have modest savings even while living on limited income. But here's where it gets emotional, and I want to speak directly to anyone watching this who's feeling anxious right now. If you receive a recertification letter and you read it 3 times without understanding what it's asking for, you are not alone, and you are not failing. These letters are often written in bureaucratic language that doesn't make sense to anyone, and that's not your fault. What you need to know is this: when you get a recertification notice, the most important thing is the deadline. Responding by that deadline, even if you're not sure you have every document perfect, is better than missing it. Your state SNAP office can work with you if something's missing, but they can't help if you don't respond at all. And if you're struggling to gather documentation for things like medical expenses, which is one of the most common issues, know that you can claim a standard medical deduction of $35 a month without any paperwork. But if your actual costs are higher and you want to claim the full deduction, you'll need receipts, statements from your pharmacy, or Medicare premium notices. This isn't about catching you in a mistake. It's about making sure the deductions you're claiming are real so you get the right amount of help. Let me answer some of the questions that come up most often because I know you're wondering. First, if your Medicare Part B premium went up in 2026, and for many people it did, that counts toward your medical expense deduction. Medicare premiums, including Part B and Part D, are qualifying medical expenses under SNAP rules. So if your total medical costs each month are over $35, everything above that amount reduces your countable income. Second, if you've never applied for SNAP because you thought you didn't qualify, you can apply online in most states through your state benefits portal, or you can apply in person or by mail. The website benefits.gov has links to every state's application system, and if you need help filling it out, you can call the Elder Care Locator at 1-800-677-1116 and speak to a free benefits counselor who can walk you through it. These are real people whose job is to help you, not to judge you or make you feel bad for asking. I also want to address something that's been happening more and more, and it makes me furious on behalf of every senior who's been targeted. Scammers are sending fake texts, emails, and phone calls pretending to be from SNAP offices, claiming your benefits have been suspended under the new 2026 rules and demanding personal information to restore them. Let me be absolutely clear. Your state SNAP office communicates by mail, not by unsolicited phone calls, not by text messages, and not by emails with links asking you to click and verify your information. If you receive anything like that, do not respond. Contact your state SNAP office directly through the number on benefits.gov to verify whether any communication is real. You've worked too hard and lived through too much to have your identity stolen or your benefits threatened by criminals pretending to help you? Here's what I want you to take away from this. The 2026 SNAP rules for elderly households are designed to recognize the real costs you face. Medical bills that pile up even with Medicare, rent or mortgage payments that take half your income or more, and the fixed reality of living on Social Security in an economy where everything from groceries to utilities keeps getting more expensive. The net income test, the deductions, the exemptions for elderly households, all of these exist because lawmakers understood that a simple income cutoff doesn't tell the whole story of what it costs to survive as a senior in America today. But the system only works if you know it exists, if you understand how to use it, and if you're willing to apply even when you're not sure you'll qualify. If you found this helpful, if something finally made sense that didn't before, do me a favor and share this with someone in your life who might be in the same situation. Maybe it's a neighbor, maybe it's a family member, maybe it's someone at church who's too proud to ask for help but who you know is struggling. Sometimes the hardest part isn't the application, it's just knowing that help is available in the first place. And if there's a part of this that still doesn't make sense, leave a comment below and tell me what's still unclear, because your questions become the next video. And the more specific you are, the more helpful I can be. Subscribe to US Benefit Updates and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next breakdown, because every week we're covering another program, another rule change, another benefit that seniors and low-income families need to know about, but that nobody's explaining in plain English. You deserve to know what you're entitled to, you deserve to eat every day without fear, and you deserve to have someone in your corner who's telling you the truth without the runaround. That's what we're here for, and we're not going anywhere.